Hi, I'm Phil, and in these analysis videos, we take a look at a film in terms of its story structure, character arcs, themes, etc. Today, we're looking at The Shawshank Redemption. Make sure you've seen the movie. Spoilers ahead. The Shawshank Redemption reaches the top of the IMDB list, usually vying for first place with The Godfather or The Dark Knight these days. And Shawshank, as a genre, is a prison film, an institutionalized prison film. Most institutionalized films are like this. They're either set in a prison or a mental asylum or some other place where the characters literally cannot escape, and they spend their entire lives there and they become institutionalized. This, of course, becomes one of the key themes of the film. It's a basic three-act structure. Every film I've looked at so far is mostly a three-act structure. The inciting incident, of course, is when the Tim Robbins character of Andy Dufresne is sentenced to go to jail.
By the power vested in me by the state of Maine, I hereby order you to serve 2 life sentences back to back. 1 for each of your victims. So be it.
And in the flashbacks they show us there, despite Andy professing his innocence, we're not sure if he's truly innocent or not. We don't see him commit the crime, but we also don't see visualized his explanation for what happened.
Along the way, I stopped and I threw my gun into the Royal River. I feel I've been very clear on this point.
So it's left up to the audience, did he or didn't he commit the crime?
Since I am innocent of this crime, sir, I find it decidedly inconvenient that the gun was never found.
So anyway, he ends up in Shawshank, and one of the key things with Shawshank is that the central character is Andy, but the voiceover is Red. This is a second-person narrative. We know the story through Red's point of view.
Andy came to Shawshank Prison in early 1947 for murdering his wife and the fella she was banging.
And we only know Andy, essentially, through Red's eyes. And if you're going to have a voiceover, you might as well make it Morgan Freeman, after all.
I must admit I didn't think much of Andy first time I laid eyes on him. Looked like a stiff breeze would blow him over.
The first act turning point, again, A plot, B plot. A plot is surviving in the prison and trying to clear his name. And the B plot becomes the relationship between Andy and Red. The first act turning point of the A plot is the scene on the roof.
Hey! Mr. Hadley, do you trust your wife?
Because if you do trust her, there's no reason you can't keep that $35,000.
What did you say?
This sequence leads to the bulk of the film, where Andy now is a favoured prisoner. He gets the job in the library.
I've been reassigned to you.
I know, they told me. Ain't that a kick in the head?
Simply becomes a private space where the guards can come to discuss their tax matters with him.
Thinking about maybe setting up some kind of trust fund for my kids' educations.
And this also gets him in the good books with the warden.
Can't say I approve of this. But I suppose exceptions can be made.
This is the beginning of Andy's journey of making life better at Shawshank for himself and for everyone else. In fact, primarily for everyone else. Because even that scene on the roof also becomes the first act turning point for the B story. When the deal is,
I'd only ask 3 beers apiece for each of my co-workers.
he doesn't even want one himself. He's not a drinker.
We sat and drank with the sun on our shoulders and felt like free men. I think he did it just to feel normal again, if only for a short while.
So that's our first act turning point that leads us into Act 2 of the developing relationship between Red and Andy now starting to improve things as best he can at the prison, working for the warden and all the prison officers, not just at this prison but at other prisons, and doing their taxes for them.
The guards on the opposing teams all remembered to bring their W-2s.
The midpoint of this film is when Andy plays the record over the PA. So up until now, we've had him writing the letters, and he manages to get, finally, donations of books and a deal of ongoing books and records coming to the library. When he plays the record over the PA, and again, invests some humanity into this situation, and refuses to turn it off until they literally break through the door and stop him. This now puts Andy in isolation for months. The warden does not want Andy getting above his station, so they've got to put him in his place. And 2 months in isolation will do that to a man. Again, this becomes a major challenge for Andy in his B story about can he survive here.
Was it worth it? 2 weeks in the hole?
Easiest time I ever did. That's the beauty of music. They can't get that from you.
So there's two basic themes going here, or rather the theme and the spine. The famous line out of the film,
Get busy living, you get busy dying.
this is the spine of the film. This is the concept that holds together the A plot, which is how do you survive in prison? And we see this through the character of Brooks, who gets paroled, but he's so institutionalized.
I don't like it here. I'm tired of being afraid all the time. I've decided not to stay.
He gets busy dying because he can't handle living on the outside. This is what Andy is fighting against, the dehumanization of these men that are in prison for a long time. The theme is
Hope.
Hope. Let me tell you something, my friend. Hope is a dangerous thing. Hope can drive a man insane. It's got no use on the inside. You better get used to that idea.
Now, usually our story starts with our central character in opposition to the theme, and the point of the story is to teach them to be in accord with said theme.
And when they put you in that cell, when those bars slam home, that's when you know it's for real.
Here, Andy is already in accord with the theme and remains in accord.
His first night in the joint, Andy Dufresne cost me 2 packs of cigarettes. He never made a sound.
So one could argue that Red is actually the main protagonist of the Shawshank Redemption, because he's the one who grows and changes the most. He's the one who does not believe in hope.
Hope is a dangerous thing.
But by the end, he does.
I have to remind myself that some birds aren't meant to be caged. Their feathers are just too bright.
The second act turning point of the film is after Tommy has arrived and befriended Andy and been studying for his high school equivalency, the revelation from Tommy that he was in prison with the man who apparently did commit the murders that Andy is accused of.
So he killed him. Him and this tasty bitch he was with. And he's the one they pinned it on.
Andy goes to the warden and makes the mistake of calling him
Obtuse. Is it deliberate?
Son, you are forgetting yourself.
and this results in Tommy's death. This becomes our second act turning point. Andy's choice moment here comes after he's finally out of solitary yet again, and his little moment on the bench with Red.
I guess it comes down to a simple choice, really. Get busy living, you get busy dying.
It's not clear what Andy has chosen to do here. In fact, the implication is that he's going to kill himself. Again, this is why he got the rope, presumably.
He asked me for a length of rope.
Rope?
This is Andy's choice. After his one chance of getting out of here legally is snatched away from him. But then, of course, we find and then with Red's retrospective POV,
How often do you really look at a man's shoes?
we discover how Andy escaped. So by the time he made the choice there, the tunnel was already in existence. But he didn't use it because he was still hoping, I think, at that point, that there was a legitimate way out of here. He still had hope.
Hope is a dangerous thing. It's got no use on the inside.
The moment Andy's escaped, and we see the fallout with the warden and guards,
Norton had no intention of going that quietly.
and in fact, the moment Red gets the postcard
Fort Hancock, right on the border.
that tells us that Andy has fully escaped and is where he said he was going to be,
Tell you where I'd go. To Watton Hill.
That's the end of the story. That's the end of the A-plot. Andy has left Shawshank. And now we're left with Red. Everything that happens from this point is really resolving the B-plot, the relationship between Andy and Red. Red goes to his parole hearing and is not just saying what he thinks they want to hear.
You feel you've been rehabilitated?
Rehabilitated?
You know, I don't have any idea what that means. To me, it's just a made-up word.
And these parole hearings actually are a really good introduction to each of the acts. So Red gets his parole. We see him do the same job and consider, potentially, the same out that Brooks did. But he has a mission. Andy has given him a way out of this. Has given him hope.
Promise me, Red. If you ever get out, find that spot.
The B story, the relationship, is resolved when they reunite on the beach. Story's over. Roll end credits. If we'd been in Andy's point of view, and Andy was doing the voiceover, then the revelation of that hole in the wall and his escape would not be a surprise. We would be with Andy as he's digging that hole. We would know this is what he's planning, as a plan B, if you like. If all else fails, I can always escape through the hole. And also with the corruption and the 2 copies of the books, we would know that he's doing that all along, rather than saving it for a little flashback sequence of Red telling us once he had worked out, once he had found out the truth of what Andy was up to. So the advantage of the second person narrative here is that it conceals from us, the audience, certain information that the filmmaker would rather we did not know yet. It keeps certain mysteries in place and adds some suspense when it looks like Andy is about to kill himself because of Tommy's death, because he now sees no way out of this other than to get busy dying. Anyway, that's my take on the Shawshank Redemption. Hope you enjoyed that. If you'd like to see more videos like this, you know what to do. If you'd like to learn more about the craft of filmmaking, check out my book, which is linked below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Get busy living or get busy dying. That's goddamn right.